Weird. Okay. Patrick said he couldn't hear me, so I hope y'all can hear me now. I've got Mario with me this morning. Okay. Apparently, I just gave a fantastic, brilliant monologue and nobody could hear it.
Yeah, it's usually how it happens.
Microphone. So, yeah, like I said, I just had to do a not quite where I wanted them to be. Anyway, so Mario. You said you had some articles about spiteful mutants and the like. If you have those handy, you can drop them in the thread. We can pull those up too. But let's just get the conversation. Trump has officially, or I don't know if officially is the right word. Trump has declared in a True Social post, which is
Trump has truthed. He has truthed that he is going to do something. But yeah, it looks like.
But in fairness, I fully expect that if Trump truths, I'm going to do X, then we're probably going to see we're probably going to see something like an executive order today.
Yep.
He says, I am pleased to inform our many U.S. patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And as we discussed yesterday, I kind of alluded to it yesterday on the show, but Mario and I were discussing what this morning was going to be about. Right after our conversation on the phone last night, Mario, he tweeted this out, or he truthed this out. And of course, we got the news yesterday that Jimmy Kimmel's been fired. And these two things are not unconnected. But he said he uses this language advisedly, I would say. He says, as a major terrorist organization. And like I pointed out yesterday, Antifa is not a domestic terror group. This is an important distinction, an important thing to understand. Antifa is an international organization, which means that the Antifa terrorists operating on U.S. soil are foreign enemy combatants legally. That is an important legal definition. They are no different than if Mossad had come over to the U.S. and begun recruiting college students to conduct violent terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. They're no different than if the KGB was doing the same.
That's what they've done over the course of the last, which would I say, 60 years. Okay, you had basically during World War II. All right, a lot of intellectuals were fleeing Europe to the United States. Okay, this would largely be comprised as what we would call the Frankfurt School today. Okay, there were Jewish communists who fled Nazi Europe to America. All right.
Well, real quick,
they got here.
Real quick, you mentioned the Frankfurt School, but you're talking about intellectuals coming over right after World War II. So just so the audience is clear on context, the Frankfurt School first came to the U.S. in like 1911. So when it is not that the Frankfurt School came here after World War II, it's when World War II was over, the Frankfurt School being here was an established beachhead toward which these people could flee to begin with. It was the foothold they already had.
There was a large exodus, okay, pre-war and post-war, to the United States, all right, of shall we say a certain rootless cosmopolitan class of people. All right, they immediately found work within academia, right, where they went about their work of basically spreading cultural Marxism. They realized that economic Marxism was basically was a pipe dream at that point. It wasn't going to work because they were unsuccessful. They were unsuccessful in fomenting like hatred amongst the working class people to overthrow the government, basically overturn their entire culture. They realized that they needed to use the education system to do it. They had to find they needed youth. All right, they needed the inexperience of youth to corrupt. So, and that's what they did. And at this point, our academia essentially completely captured. There is, I mean, you could look at like statistics of how many college professors are, say, conservative or Republican, and it's like in the single digit percentile,
Right.
And campuses since the 1960s have been hotbeds for radicalism. All right, the same people that you saw, like seizing Columbia University, say in the late 60s, early 70s, are the very same people who went on to become the actual academics, become the professors of these schools. And now we're at a point where academia is essentially lost. And I don't know. I really don't know how it can be recovered. You've seen, like, recently, Bill Ackman, I guess, was involved in like the high-profile firings of Columbia University, and amongst others. But I mean, I guess that's good. But let's be honest, they're just doing it to secure Israel's position. Okay, to attempt to cut down on basically anti-Israel BDS style activity on campus. So.
Now, something that's worth pointing out, as you noted, Mario.
I can't find the damn article, dude.
That's okay. It's okay.
Buried into oblivion. It doesn't exist anymore.
You've just brought me around. I want to touch on something that could actually be one of our deep dives later, and that's academic funding. The rise of communism on college campuses did begin in the 60s and the 70s. And there's an important thing that happened to kind of fuel that. In 1958, the government began guaranteeing student loans. And something y'all have to understand about guaranteed student loans, if you haven't spent time in professional academia, here's what happens. You go to college, you take out some student loans. You don't have to start paying them back until you are no longer taking classes, until you are no longer a student. So then you go into your post-grad work, you go into your master's, you go into your doctoral work, et cetera, et cetera. And through that, while you're doing all of that, you also work for the university. The university pays you. They may even only pay you a meager stipend, right? But you're a student at the university, and you're a teacher's aide, and then you're an assistant professor. Then you're a professor with a PhD that's working on a second or third or fourth PhD. So you never have to start repaying the loans, and you're still taking out more and more and more and more loans. When they talk about the student debt crisis, and you hear about people being, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in debt, in student debt, we're talking about career students. They stay in college, right? And many of them, after you've got your first couple of doctorates, you just have to take enough classes, and the term classes is extremely loosely defined, right? But you just have to take enough classes to delay beginning to repay your loans, and you can just continue to amass that money, and that's all intricately subsidized through programs like, oh, well, hey, since you're working for the college, we're only gonna charge you this much tuition. Oh, but hey, when you take out your loan, you're not taking out the amount for the tuition. You're taking out what they'll let you borrow, and that's also what you live on. That's also the money that you live on.
Yeah.
Right. And that cycles. So essentially, when you hear about the student loan crisis, what you're hearing about is we have a crisis of debt that has been created by communists actively taking advantage of our largesse as a country. And they're using that funding to convert academia since the 60s into essentially a training camp for what are now clearly enemy foreign combatants.
They're leftist seminaries is what they are. So let a lot of people graduate from college with no other skill other than being a professional leftist. You are a professional leftist. That is what you learned in college. Okay.
Yeah, you got your gender studies degree. Gotcha.
And,
So,
and
so
you owe
what,
and you
what
owe
I
100.
understand now is you're gonna fuck up my coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, you're a professional leftist. Okay. The starting pay for a professional leftist is whatever entry level work may exist in your area for $15 an hour, and yeah, and you owe $100,000.
Yeah.
So
and you're gonna seek forgiveness for that. And okay, this topic is a whole deep dive that we can go down. So the designation of Antifa as a foreign terror, as a major terrorist organization, I hope they get this right. I do not want to hear the word domestic attached to the term terrorist in regards to Antifa. It needs to be very clear that Antifa is an international organization. And so any Antifa member, anybody flying the Antifa flag, wearing an Antifa patch on their clothing in America today should be treated as if it's World War II and you're looking at an actual swastika in downtown New York.
Well, it's funny that's when they were founded in, I believe, 1920 in the 1920s in Germany. Antifa was a revolutionary communist kind of like self-defense force. All right. And by defense, communist always mean offense. They were meant as a counterweight to the Freikorps, all right, which was groups of disaffected army veterans from World War One, all right, German soldiers who were kind of banding together and creating what would be kind of the foundations of like the brown shirts, okay, in the early National Socialist movement. And Antifa was created as basically a counterweight to them. It was revolutionary, communist, and Jewish from its inception, and it has been ever since. So, yeah, there's a direct connection between Marxist intellectuals in 1920s Germany and the spiteful mutants that you see on the street in Portland, Oregon today. So it's the same group. Now they don't operate as a well-structured organization. Okay, there is no real international hierarchy. It is more of a like individual cell-based action. All right, so people form the new chapters. It is intentionally what's the word?
Decentralized.
It's intentionally decentralized as possible. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so they began. Okay, so the American colonials invented fourth generational warfare, which is asymmetric guerrilla warfare, right? And the groups like Antifa adopted that, with their founding, and that's how they operated throughout World War II. Today we have the internet, we have social media. I've talked about how the Lois Lerner situation worked, right? Barack Obama never picked up a phone and said, "Hey, Lois, I want you to do me a favor and shuffle all those conservative 501c3s down to the bottom of the stack." No, he never did that. Instead, he said, "Won't someone rid me of this troublesome priest?" And Lois Lerner said, "Ooh, hey, I can fuck these guys, and they won't be able to get out the vote. And Obama will never even know that I helped him, but I will have helped him. And that's good for the cause." Right? And so now we're getting into fifth generational decentralized communication. This is amorphous warfare, right? So think back to the 99 movie, The Matrix, right? Neo comes out of the Matrix and they take him back in to do a mission, and it's being explained to him that as long as they're plugged in, so you're normies, right? Look around, you're normies. As long as they're still plugged into the Matrix, anybody and everybody isn't necessarily the enemy, but they can be immediately. They can be everywhere. Now, I'll say this. We should thank God that the majority of the actual Antifa active agents are visible, spiteful mutants, right? It is a good thing that these toads are brightly colored and easily identified.
is a natural warning to others. Yeah.
So let's get to. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is some pushback to it, and yeah, that's why I wanted to. That's why it's absolutely essential that the language is very specific in this bill. I'm not looking for Patriot Act 2. Okay, I'm not. Oh no, something terrible happened. Govern me harder, Daddy. Okay, like here, let me give the government. Let me give the government more power. That's why I was so offended by what Pamela Bondi was talking about. Shamala. All right, that's why I was so offended by Shamala, when she talked about like hate speech. All right, talking about how it's like with the murder of Charlie Kirk. All right, the Trump administration is that Trump has a mandate to do something about the radical left. All right, in this country, Trump has a mandate to do something about what radical left and about transsexual terror. All right. And then Pamela Bondi is specifically targeting these people, okay? And then you got Pamela Bondi talking about like enhancing hate speech laws. Like, you fucking idiot, you absolute fool. Like, we have a mandate to strike back against the left and actually win for once, and you're talking about setting up a legal framework that the Democrats will just use immediately to target us the moment you're out of office. How stupid can you be? Like, resign. You're done. You're done. You can't be that stupid when the stakes are this high. Anyway.
Sorry. Right. And, okay, let me pop back over here. So before we get into Kimmel getting fired, I want to show you. Okay, so this guy shared the Donald Trump truth. This Malcolm Nance, terrorism expert here. You cannot designate an idea as a terrorist group. Malcolm Nance clearly doesn't know anything the fuck at all.
He's black.
I bet he says he's okay, U.S. intelligence, 36 plus years, expert.
Okay.
Yeah, U.S. extremism, dead Russians, best-selling author, Navy senior chief, Ukrainian legionnaire. Okay, so you got a black leftist here.
I'm looking him up right now.
I mean, what? And he says he's a terrorism expert. You cannot designate an idea as a terrorist group. Okay, I'll grant you that. That is true. You cannot designate an idea. Like, for example, it would not be legitimately intelligible to say white supremacy is terrorism. That didn't fucking stop Biden or Obama or Christopher Wray or James Comey.
Yep.
Didn't stop any of those assholes from saying that white men are the greatest threat to our country. And I guarantee you, look at that face, this guy would agree. Right? Yep. Says, now, that said, let's be fucking clear.
There is no leadership or funding path. Come on, man. You know that's not true.
Right.
You know that's not true.
Antifa has a flag. They fly the flag. They conduct organized operations. They operate through secure chat channels. They use things like Signal and Telegram and WhatsApp with disappearing messages to organize attacks. Right? Everything from the Battle of Berkeley to Trump's first inauguration, right? They like to cry about January 6th. It's like everybody forgets that after Trump's first inauguration, 2016, they set Washington, D.C. on fire.
Yeah, D.C. was a mess.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like I said, pointing out the hypocrisy of the left is utterly pointless because they don't care.
This right here, I can tell you this right here. If this guy actually spent 36 years in U.S. military intelligence, he cannot not understand that this statement is a lie.
He's partisan.
It's not possible to have worked in U.S. military intelligence and not know that this is a lie.
He's partisan.
Or that this is a lie. Right. This is pure partisan hack.
And, if I may, just to show that I'm human, I'm okay with a little, I'm okay with a little, I'm okay with a little extra legal abuse now and then. Okay. We've been subject to extra legal abuse for a decade. Okay. Or more than that, but still. Yep. Okay. Maybe for once we get to wield that awful, ugly weapon of state power. Okay. And use it against our enemies. Maybe we get to be the bad guy for once. Okay. I'm okay with that. Because we've been on the defensive constantly. Let's be the bad guy for once. Let's be everything they're terrified of. Okay.
I need to send you a big box of Double Salt licorice tabs.
Yeah.
So you can be sitting there popping black pills while I'm sitting here popping white pills with my Altoids.
Okay.
It'd be a great little visual. But yeah, this and then here's we didn't even get to cover. There's so much shit going on. We didn't even cover this. He says also there is no law in America to charge terrorism. Ask Luigi. Okay, and again, Malcolm, you're a fucking retard. You got that completely backwards. In fact, what happened with Luigi Mangione has been charged with several charges, right? Murder. Now, bizarrely, he's being charged with second-degree murder. He's being charged at the state level and the federal level. Alvin Bragg, one of the charges Alvin Bragg brought against Luigi Mangione was terrorism. He was charged with terrorism. And the judge, now remember, we're talking about a New York judge, right? And we'll get to that a little more in a minute. But the judge determined that the law says that fascism, by definition, is committed against a group of people to change the minds or actions to force them to take actions in response to the terror threat, to the terroristic actions. And since Mangione murdered a single person, one individual, that does not meet the definition of terrorism because he wasn't targeting a group. So, thing one, if that's the definition of terrorism, and we can generously accept that that's a legitimate interpretation of Luigi's actions, the fact remains that Luigi is still being charged with murder. Thing two, the murderer, and I'm going to say the murderer instead of Luigi because innocent until proven guilty, and there does appear to still be some chance that it wasn't actually Luigi that did it. That's a whole other bucket of worms. But he had the engravings on the shell casings, just like the Uwu lady boy that shot Charlie Kirk. He had messages engraved on the shell casings.
Uwu. Uwu.
So it's very, very clear that the point was not just to murder the CEO, but the intent of the killer was to send a message to the healthcare industry, health insurance industries, and politicians who have their hands on policy related to how healthcare administration is handled at the government level as well. It is clear as it could be that there was a group that was meant, or in fact, in this case, several groups that were meant by the murderer to be influenced by his terroristic activity.
Are you sure?
Right? Yes.
Was there a group around him, or was it he just acting alone?
The question is not whether or not he was part of a group. The question is whether or not his target was a group.
I think charging him with terrorism is overcharging him. Okay, I mean it's clearly murder. All right, charging Luigi Mangione with terrorism though, I don't recall even seeing any kind of expressed motive from him. So unless there's some kind of like manifesto, then I don't. I think that's overcharging.
My point, Mario. You're missing my point. Forget whether or not he's part of a group. He murdered a single individual. The argument that the judge is making is that he didn't target a group. That there's no evidence that the intent of his action was meant to influence a group. And I'm saying there's at least a reasonable suspicion that you murdered the CEO of your health insurance company because you're upset with the health insurance company.
Yeah.
So there is a group that he's targeting. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
The idea that there's no evidence that he intended to target that group by targeting an individual. Basically now what you're arguing is that the Charlie Kirk murder was not a political assassination because they only killed one man.
Yeah, but I'm saying it. There's not a clear political motive there. Okay, I think charging Luigi with terrorism is overcharging him. Okay,
no,
you got him on murder, dead to rights. Okay,
I don't
wrong with that.
I don't disagree that the terrorism charges were overcharging. My point is that the way the judge dismissed the charges doesn't seem intelligible. The judge could have made the argument that this is a murder case and not a terror case, instead of making the argument that there's no possibility for a political connection here. The problem with this is with Luigi Mangione, who's being celebrated by the left, right? And he's being celebrated because they believe that he murdered the CEO for political reasons with which they agree, right? It's just part and parcel with them, with the number of people that I discussed yesterday who are being fired because they're celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And the thing that's going on with that, they're actively celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. They're begging for more. They're publishing lists of names. So you're seeing lists. It's like Trump, Vance, Shapiro, Poole, etc. Benny Johnson, Steven Crowder. They're publishing these lists of names, and we want these guys to die next. And they're doing this whole retcon thing where they're going back and saying, "Hey, look, Charlie Kirk thinks that we should stone all the gays to death." Rah! And no, he never. No, that's not a thing he said. You fucking morons. The thing that's important to remember here is what they're doing is they're basically giving permission. They're giving permission to do the violence, right? Recent studies, there have been several studies recently that show that some 60+% of women, especially men and women, but especially women who identify as liberal, left, or far left, currently suffer from a mental illness, a diagnosed mental illness, and are being medicated for that diagnosis. It cannot be ignored that the fact is this: the DNC, the Democrat Party, and their Chinese supporters, their Jewish supporters, their global homo cabal understand that because they are the party of sloth, of envy, of greed, and of degeneracy, that all the crazies, all the psychos are over there, are on the left. And so all they need to do in order to conduct a hot civil war is they need to give their crazies permission to do violence. And that's what all this celebration and retcon shit is about. That's what all of the George Soros funded DAs just letting people out. They Molotov cocktail a police car or burn down a federal building or murder somebody in the street in cold blood for wearing a Trump hat. It's all about making it permissible to do political violence.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought up the Soros, okay, brought up the money, because that is the most effective thing that this legislation could target. All right. The majority of the money that filters down to left wing radical organizations, okay, or activist groups, comes from a company called Arabella. All right. Bill Gates was a major sponsor of them until very recently when he severed ties. They also receive a lot of money from George Soros and his Open Society Foundation. It's essentially it's an organization that takes in donations. Okay, there's a lot of wealthy leftists. Okay, who also offer their support, and they take that money, they pool it, and then they distribute it to activist groups below them. Okay, so they also function as kind of a money laundering operation, so that the high level donors don't have their name attached to it. All right, but yeah, if you want to target the money, target Arabella. All right, should have been done 10 years ago. Okay, better late than never. Go ahead and target that. If you target that specific organization, you will do incalculable damage to Antifa and to the Socialist Rifle Club and Armed Queers of Utah and any other freak flag organization that exists out there. Okay, all that money is coming from limited sources. Okay, that can be identified as nodes and destroyed. Okay, so yeah, Antifa itself may be rather amorphous as an organization. Okay, individual cells kind of just doing their own thing, doing drugs and having gay sex. But the money is not quite so decentralized.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Have you ever read "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress"?
No.
Okay, so "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress," Robert A. Heinlein. The basic setup, the basic premise. It's the distant future. We have colonized the moon, but it's basically the new Australia. We colonized the moon to be a prison colony, and we did that to solve our problem with overcrowded prisons. Right. Fast forward. Almost 200 years after we've colonized the moon, that's the beginning of "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress." And the situation where the book picks up is the people, they call them loonies, right? They live in Luna City on the moon. The loonies are not criminals. They're not the criminals that were sent there. They're the descendants of the criminals that were sent there. It's Australia, right?
Yeah.
Basically. And the planet Earth is suffering from a massive population explosion, super overcrowded, so much so that we're running out of land to grow crops on. And so the moon colony, which is, like I said, it's no longer peopled with criminals, it's peopled with the children, the descendants of the criminals, but they've been turned into a second class citizen state who's required by the planet Earth to grow crops and send them back to Earth. And so they're looking for independence, and they fight a revolutionary war. And the way they conduct their revolutionary war in that book, it's a great book by Robert A. Heinlein, but the way that they conduct their revolutionary war against the planet Earth is through the development of 3-member terror cells, where you'll have 3 members, right? And each of the 3 members will know one member of another cell, but they won't discuss with each other who the other cell is. So when there's something that needs to be done that requires more than one cell to do it, if one cell says, "Hey, I've got a plan, but we need a dozen people." Okay, cool. So we're going to go through the plan, and then I'm going to go tell the 3 guys I know, and you go tell the 3 guys you know. And the only way we meet is if we absolutely have to work in teams of 4 or more. And so they never know, none of them ever know who the other guy is. It is the blueprint for amorphous warfare. And it is how modern terror cells conduct themselves. Now,
kind of brilliant, actually.
Modern terror cells tend to operate in larger cells than 3-man groups, which frankly is one of the reasons we're able to eliminate them effectively. Right? I'm sure, Mario, I'm sure you heard this when you were downrange. There are no stupid terrorists because we've already killed them all.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. It's not that that's a true statement. It's kind of like every gun is loaded. It doesn't need to be true to be a valuable way to understand the world. Right? You operate under the assumption that the enemy is as smart as you are.
Correct.
Even if you meet them and discover that they're too dumb to learn.
All right, where were we? Going back to ANTIFA. Okay, so what do you think this bill's? I guess there is no bill yet, right? It's just a declaration from Trump.
Correct. All we've got so far is,
Yeah.
I mean, he truthed it out last night at, what time was it? He put it out on Truth Social at 8:26 p.m. Like I said, in fact, just for chuckles, let me check. You and I were speaking for. You and I were on the phone yesterday. Yeah, we got off the phone with each other at 8:16 last night. We were having that conversation after dinner, and we hung up at 8:16. So he literally made this 10 minutes after you and I discussed what we were going to talk about this morning.
Yeah, well,
and it just happens to fold right in.
Cameron right now is posting e-thoughts in the Notorious thread. He can't stop simping. Like he doesn't listen to men. He only listens to instructions from women online. Like that's what's wrong with him. He can't stop simping. He's listening to me right now. He's getting angry. He's going to type something. It's okay. I'll monitor I'll monitor Cameron's stochastic terrorism on the thread while you wrap up the show. It's okay.
Okay, and I guess that is pretty much a wrap. Oh, well, actually, wait, no, we didn't even get to Kimmel getting fired. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Kimmel got fired yesterday,
which will never not be funny. Okay.
Which will never not be funny.
It will never not be funny to see people who advocated like the doxing and unpersoning of other people to have those weapons be turned upon them. That will never not be funny. Okay. And he deserved it because he went. You want to talk about misinformation? Like this isn't disinformation, misinformation. What he said, he outright lied. Okay, he outright lied on national television to a large but ever shrinking audience. Okay, I might add, that basically trying to push the leftist psyop that Timothy Robinson. Is that his name? Tyler Robinson? That he's a groiper, okay? That he's one of Nick Fuentes' people.
Yeah, and let me just
farce.
Let me just put a pin in that real quick.
Yep.
You can have concerns about the groipers.
Exactly.
You can have disagreements with the groipers. You can generally dislike the groipers, but you know what you can't do? You cannot make an intelligent, positive assertion that ladyboys are groipers.
Cat boys, perhaps. But yeah, the groiper calling someone else a fascist as an insult, that would not happen. Okay, so that's for certain. Anyway,
so yeah, there's. Oh, go ahead.
Have you talked at all about who's Have you talked at all about who's going to inherit Charlie's seat?
I haven't. And I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of vying for it because, I mean, let's be, all courtesy aside, it's a big job. It's a big job. It's a valuable job.
Yeah.
I think his wife is going to take over as CEO, but I don't expect her to become the public face. So I don't know yet. What have you heard?
Well,
the whole thing that Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire are trying to take it over, I think, is probably bullshit. I haven't seen any credible evidence of that.
I don't know.
Some sociopaths.
Benny Boy's already run one organization into the ground. Okay, he's going to do what his ancestors have always done, which is flee a sinking ship and attach themselves to another one. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to. Okay, and if he does, honestly, it'd be ideal if he did, because the TPUSA audience would reject that. Okay,
You want to talk about Jay killing the entire country?
They would reject that en masse, and then they'd be looking more to us. Okay, they'd be looking more to like basically Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is he's like the anti-Charlie. All right, they're like the two sides of the same coin kind of thing. Both have a huge youth movement, so want to make a nation of little groypers everywhere. Okay, that would be a positive outcome.
Cade has a theory. The co-hosts will cycle hosting until one stands out.
Yeah.
And guys, let me say this real quick. So my buddy Cade, he works a shitload of hours and doesn't often get to watch the show live in the morning. I'm glad to see him here this morning, and in kind of in celebration and recognition of my boy Cade being on here, I'm going to go ahead and give away a Nope, not that. I don't want to do a Rumble rant on my own stream. I want to give away a subscription, you psychopath. There. So, there you go, kids. I'm throwing some breadcrumbs out there for everybody. Let's see who hits the number this morning.
For the people.
Kate got one. There we go.
There you go.
I just distributed 5. I just distributed 5 to increase the odds that Cade would get one. So yeah, hey, if you haven't made a comment, go ahead and make a comment now. You might not be too late to be a random selectee of the last 3. Kenev got one.
Oh man!
Yay! Kenev got one. Timonian got one. Hell yes! And that means you guys are in like Flint. Y'all can watch the deep dive.
You get a membership. You get a membership. You get a membership. Everybody gets a membership.
You know what though? There's a big difference between what I just did and what Oprah just did. You remember when Oprah did the whole "you got a car, you get a car"? It's become a meme. People talk about it. You remember the fallout of that?
People sold their cars or something, or they didn't.
Dude, people were ruined by it.
Huh?
Because they had to pay the taxes on the gift.
Oh, you couldn't.
she had to swoop in and shell out millions of dollars to help cover the tax burdens for those people. But even that posed a whole new problem because her paying the taxes for them was another gift. Mm-hmm. And there was yeah, people forget that Oprah fucks some people up pretty bad by giving them free cars.
Yeah, that is funny, actually. All right. I want to make a comment on Cade getting a colonoscopy, but I'm just gonna pass for now. I haven't talked to him recently, so I don't know how offended he would be.
I don't know. I assume the cameras will be in the middle like a cosmonaut and an astronaut. Yeah. They're gonna go boop. No, Cade, the thing that I'm really interested to know is, are they going to give you a pair of video glasses where you've got 1 feed in the left eye and 1 feed in the right eye?
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah, imagine you're in charge of the colonoscopy. Like, you have the controls, okay? like a video game.
Kate says, no, you can't watch. Are you kidding, brother? I'm going to send you a link so we can live stream it tomorrow morning.
Fuck yeah. Dude,
I'll go dig out the old article about the butt gun.
That's right. We're going spelunking all the way up Cade's ass. You don't want to miss it. And here to the left we have 50 pounds of undigested processed beef. Okay. Next on our tour, a dead hamster. Never mind, nothing to see here. Move along.
Oh, let me wink.
Oh, man.
All right. Now, oh God, Pit Daddy says fantastic voyage. They're just going to put the magic school bus in there. Oh, Jesus. Okay, guys.
Carlos.
Well, that's all I've got for this morning. Let me go ahead and put a pin in it there. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for Firearms Friday. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao.
Love you, babe.
Sorry.